Hello and welcome to Photopea. So all we have to do to get there is to go up to www.photopea.com and it'll bring up this page. Now we're doing a new project. They will offer you a lot of different things to choose from. If you look at this little box here, I am going to choose a square or a rectangle for my album cover. Now if we look at the pixels here, this one is 250 by 250 pixels. I'm thinking 700 by 700. But it doesn't really matter. But it gives me a nice square here. Now I'm going to open the images that I have found. Now I want to open all of the images that I found that I want to use for my artwork. Oh, I love this feather. Isn't that great? I really like this empty room for a background. The lighting is just so cool. So you'll see up here, my project is here, Alicia's here, and then my other images have their own little boxes. So I will be importing each of these. Which one do I want to use? Now I really love this. I'm going to use this square rectangle select to grab Alicia. I'm going to copy and paste it. Now if I go down to object selection, it looks like this little bean. If I hover over that icon and grab the magic wand, well, let's look a little bit. Over here, I have several layers. There's the background that's white right now. It's locked. I'm going to unlock it. I'm going to click on Alicia's layer. Now I've selected, it's grabbed all of the purple pixels, pretty much all of them. Now I'm going to hit Control X to delete this. And it's got a little bit of a feather. You see that? You can add a feather if you'd like. I don't know if I really like that. I don't like the look of the feather at all. So, oops. Magic wand it again. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I like the clean line of her face. So the hotkey for deselect is Control D. And now that's allowing me to move this layer around. Oh, looks like I missed a little bit of the purple here. Get rid of that. Now, I just love this profile of her, but it's a little big. So I'm gonna just make it, oops. Notice how she got like tall and skinny. That's not gonna work. So undo. If I hold shift, she will stay in proportion as I transform the shape. I like how it's looking. So my empty room. Definitely want to grab a hunk of this. Copy. Paste. Notice how it's on its own layer now, but this layer's at the top. If I move it down, suddenly she's inside the room. But I'm noticing, like, I want the room to feel really spacious, to feel really like it's overtaking her, because I love the song Illusion of Bliss, how she's just so vulnerable and feeling very bereft. So I might grab the whole thing and try the background again. I'm going to delete the old one. Ooh, I kind of like that. What do you think? I like the positioning of this white bar. She's almost, it's like she can see a way out. But I want this to feel, I still want her to feel small inside the room. Because even though she's a powerful, soulful person, I want to maintain that feeling of vulnerability. I'm liking the positioning so far. And I'm really excited to see what the wings will look like once I get them in here. Now, having this image on its own is really valuable because I want the wings to maybe be a little bit at a different angle. So let me see what I can do. I'm going to go ahead and isolate this wing and then grab it, move it over here. Oh, she's got a wing on her head. Oh no. So let's see. I will grab the wing. But now, uh-oh, I'm out of space. I gotta move Alicia here. Move the wing. Ah, yes. Awesome. So notice when I hit transform, it allows me to do a lot of really fun things. I can warp, change the shape of it, do lots of really fun things. Now I want the wing. Oh yeah, baby, look at that. So I really want the wing to look like it's coming out of her back, and it's starting to get there, but I am losing the size, right? I don't have enough space because it's going to be a very small little album cover. So I think Rutrow Alicia needs to be a little smaller. So I'm going to press Shift and transform her a little bit smaller. Now, because of this image, right, she doesn't have a body. She's a floating head. She can be down here. Maybe I could put another object underneath her and feather this bottom so it doesn't look like she's just floating in space like a head. I kind of like the look of her at the bottom, but having her centered, it'll probably depend on where my text goes, right? The text is about as important, if not more important, than the images. Now, say I really like the way the wing is sized to Alicia. I want them to be together. Now I can press Shift on these two layers. Notice how they're both darkened. Now if I right click, it offers me options. I can merge the layers. Well, look, she's permanently angelic, which is pretty cool. I like the size of the wing. I like the placement of the wing. I really like this shape. That's one thing to think about when you compose the shape of your album cover. And with photo collage, it can be pretty tricky because you are taking things from different images, right? So her light source on her face is not the same as the light source in the room. The light source on the wing is not the same as the one on her. So there is a little bit of imagining and manipulation that we will probably be doing with this whole thing. Now that I have Alicia and the wing on the same kind of plane, they exist as one image, I can just move them around and not have to think about, oh, well, have I lined up the wing with Alicia every time I make a change? Because a really fundamental aspect of good design is trying out different things. You might find something you didn't expect in your initial design. Now, gotta say, sometimes I really like the look of her peeking out this open door. It really speaks to the mood and the lyrics of the song, and I'm not going to totally rule that out. Of course, I did just attach these wings to her, which could be a problem if I want to change my mind about the wings. But luckily, I still have these other images. I have Alicia, I have the wing, I have the room in their own separate little windows here. So that's pretty cool. I can always go back and change my mind about it. All right, so now I want to start thinking about the text because it's really, really important that the person who is looking at this image knows what's the song. If you click on this arrow, you can make it bigger, make it smaller. Now I want it pretty big. That font look, ooh, I kind of like the distressed look of it. I'm going to play around with a couple of options because I like how it crackles along with the background, but I almost feel like I want something a little more feminine, a little bit kind of transcendent of this room that she's in, because I'm not only giving the feel of the song, I'm giving the feel of Alicia Keys, who is a positive, beautiful artist with a lot of good things to say. No, that looks too childish. It might be difficult to choose a font. Play around with making it bold-faced, making it all caps, all lower caps, and go and see what kind of look her other albums have. How does she write her name? That can be really beneficial too. Now that's completely absurd, but I like some of that. But you know what? Oh, ooh, I like that. You know what? I'm gonna just say I really like that. I might want to choose a different color, maybe dark green. Now, as we start to talk about color, let's not forget that this entire image can be manipulated. If I go up to image adjustments, there are a lot of really fun things you can do to change the color, the saturation, the balance, how bright. So I'm gonna see what happens if I change the hue. Ooh, look at that! Look at that green, you guys! And then the saturation, if you go lighter, it'll become more black and white. You're desaturating the color. So that can be fun too if you want something a little bit less intense or maybe feeling washed out. That could be really fun. So play around with hue and saturation. I gotta say, this green is destroying me. I love it. So each of these will be done individually unless I shift on both, right? One really helpful thing about Photoshop and Photopea is going and using history. Now mine is already open. If you don't like something you've done, which you'll be monkeying around with a lot of this stuff, just go back. Now all that color work I did is gone. I can go back in time because I realized I made a mistake in not adjusting the color of Alicia and the wing with the background. Say I wanted to do the same thing to both of them. So I'm going back to adjustments. Ooh, let's look at brightness. And now it reminded me that it's being done to 2 layers. Maybe like Alicia were a little darker and I wanted just her face to get lighter and the room to stay the same. I would only want to click on the layer that I want to use, right? But right now I'm doing both. So if oh, look at that. I like that. The brightness, it really makes everything pop. It makes her seem even more angelic. Now I can play around with the contrast. Now I love what's happening, especially on her braids. As she gets more and more warm, it looks a little too warm. I still want to create that look of forlorn, kind of washed out, empty sensibilities that the song evokes. Now I like that use of light. So I can make the whole thing. I can make her any color I want. Green. That deep red looks really cool too. And if I did these as separate layers, I could have different colors, right? If I just want the general saturation to go up, look at, oh my gosh, that's absolutely insane. She looks demonic, but like, I kind of love it. And then if I desaturate, ooh, I like that. Now I want to go back to just Alicia and the wing layer. I'm noticing that. I mean, her face is so expressive and her features are so beautiful, but I'm kind of losing it because of how washed out I made it look. So I'm going to kind of play with the contrast. So I'm just going to up it slightly, give it a little more shadow. Now, one thing I can add too, if I click on this layer, it gives me this layer style. So this is only going to be messing with this particular layer of the wing and Alicia. So what happens if I bevel and emboss it? Ooh, she's jumping out. I do want a little bit of jump out because look how her face is kind of floating. I want a little bit more grounded look. Her face is so important in this design. You can change the opacity of the image itself. Maybe you want them to be ghost-like and translucent. I kind of like the shadow. Oh, look at the shadow of her against the room. That is blowing my mind. The song is all about self-reflection and choices, right? And I want to really, really evoke that. Now, I am in love with that shadow, especially where she's sitting right now. Now, I don't know if she's going to be sitting here. It'll be interesting to see where she ends up. And, you know, if I like her face here, I can always crop this to be a bit smaller. That's the cool thing. As long as my pixels are the same, I won't lose any of the details. So, okay, I really like what that shadow is doing. Like I said, let's move her around, see what happens. I like the look of her face in the doorway. What can I do with this room? I could also make Alicia smaller, just slightly, so I don't lose the wing. I really like her silhouette on the wall. Now, Illusion of Bliss is probably going to be sitting on the carpet, so I'm going to click on it, and look, I've got that layer style again. Now that looks kind of cool. It's almost reminiscent of some of the shadows happening in the room. Let's go back to the background now. I'm going to go to my corner, press Shift. Where do I want that door? Where do I want Alicia? Do I want her central? Do I want her at the bottom? All these are up for debate. Now, I really like the look of her looking out this door. But of course, it is really weird that this wing keeps going and her body ends. I could move the doorway down quite a bit, and then she could still be in the doorway. Ooh, well, look at that. You know, I'm kind of liking that. I'm not 100% loving this design yet. I think it would need to be cropped a little bit lower for me to really love it. I do like the song down here. Maybe it's a little big. I can make it smaller. Press Shift, remember? Yeah, now looking at the composition too, you've probably talked about rules of thirds. When you cut the image, especially a square, into thirds, it's very satisfying to look at. We're looking at the light source. We're looking at the placement of the lettering, where the eye is drawn, what kind of shapes you're looking at. Now I see the roundedness of her face and head versus the squareness of this. It's very satisfying. I like the organic qualities of her hair and the feathers, how everything looks very washed out. I like that. And these are all things that could change. So I really want you to play around with what these tools can do for you. And maybe you'll scrap your whole project and start over. You know, that's totally possible. Because look at, these are just a few images. And what would happen if I chose a different one of her face? I would have a totally different message, a totally different image that I'd be creating. So play around, see what happens. But remember, we do want it in a square. We do want the pixels to be at least 700. So when you save it, you'll actually have to export it as probably a JPEG. So save it to your computer, and that's how you'll be able to upload it as an image. PNGs or JPEGs are typical for pictures. Now the JPEG is going to be a little bit higher quality, so that would be my recommendation. Good luck with your designs. I can't wait to see what you make. All right, happy designing.